Hi everyone, it's Sue Plumb here to share a scrapbooking process video with you. Today's layout that I am sharing was created for the Cocoa Vanilla Studio design team and was actually created as part of our Throwback Thursday feature. Now, Throwback Thursday is where our design team actually pull out an older collection and create something fresh with it, just so that we can keep you inspired for all those things that you already have sitting in your stash. So for today, I decided to create a boy layout. Now, I get lots of requests to create boy layouts, and I absolutely love creating boy layouts because if you know me, you know I have my own dynamic duo, which is my twins, Hunter and Caden, and I'm actually scrapping a photo of them today, putting on one of their infamous poses. I actually took this before they went off to a disco at school. And yeah, that was the look they gave me. You can see it in the photo there. So for this layout, I actually decided to revisit two Cocoa Vanilla Studio boy collections. So what I have done is I have created a bit of a mashup between the Legendary collection, which was the most recent Cocoa Vanilla Studio boy collection, and the Boys Rule collection, which was the one previous to that. So what I did was I actually picked out the Explorer paper from the Legendary collection, which you can see it has that large sort of circular like mandala style print on it. And normally I tend to shy away from these sort of papers simply because the pattern on them is very symmetrical and they tend to lend themselves well to symmetrical style layouts, i.e. people generally put their photo in the center of them, but that doesn't sit well with me. I'm not one to create layouts that are sort of perfectly symmetrical or perfectly balanced, but I didn't want to shy away from using this paper because A, it's grey, and I absolutely adore grey. And I thought it would make an interesting background for this one, so I thought I'd give it a crack. So the first thing I did was I actually pulled out some acrylic paint and I used my Montmartre Payne's Grey paint for that and my wide paintbrush. And I just painted some acrylic paint across the background using the dry brush method just so that it wouldn't be too heavy on the background, but I wanted to start defining my focal area with paint. Now, using the dry brush method is great because it dries off very quickly. I mean, as the name suggests, you are not using a paintbrush that is laden with paint. It's got a small amount of paint on it. It allows you to see your brush strokes on the background, and as I said, it dries really, really quickly. So once I had my acrylic paint down on my background, I actually turned my attention to the pattern papers, and what I was going with this is I really wanted a monochromatic sort of style palette, but I really wanted one colour to pop against it. So I actually chose yellow for this because I love the combination of black, grey, yellow, white. It's a really good combination for boys, and it sort of gets you away from that whole blue-green family that people tend to sort of gravitate towards when they're scrapping boy layouts. I know I do. I'm guilty of that because they're my favourite colours. So what I did was I pulled out the Wild One paper from the Legendary collection, which has got that yellow print on the reverse of it. And I chose a large piece of this just to sort of put on top of that background and just to bring that big pop of yellow in from the very start because I knew that was going to pull people's eye directly into the focal area of my page. Now, I actually matted my photo with a couple of papers from Boys Rule. There's a chalkboard style paper there, and there's also another grey paper that's got a small triangular print on it. And I actually double matted my photo, and on the outer layer of that mat, I actually used my distress tool just to add a bit of distressing to it. It gives it a bit of texture, and I sort of like my boy layouts to have a bit of that grungy type edge. It certainly suits my boys anyway. Now in my layers I also tucked in a grey paper doily from my stash, and I also added in my frayed gauze for texture. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know this is something that I use regularly. I love the way that it brings a soft texture to the page, and it's just an easy, cheap way to add texture. So I had my stack of papers there with my doily. I've got my frayed gauze. You can see that under that yellow paper, I also tucked in another piece of patterned paper, which was that grey stripe paper, which was also from the Boys Rule collection. And you can see that I have torn the bottom edges of those papers, and I used my fingernail just to sort of rough them up and scratch them up and add a bit of distressing to them just to add more texture to the page. Now, for that large block area that was next to my photo, I knew I wanted to put a long title, a relatively long title, because I had a stash of leftover stickers from Boys Rule that I wanted to use up, clear stickers. I also had some of the die-cut title words from Legendary, and I wanted to mix them together because I love a mixed font title. So what I did was I left that yellow area, and I don't tend to work on my title so early when I'm putting a page together. But for this one, because I knew it was going to be such a feature on the page, I actually made sure I got the title in there first before I went back and embellished the page. So you can see I've used a mix of clear stickers and die-cut title words there. And I've made sure that my title will fit in there, and now I'm actually going back and adding the embellishment clusters. Now, for my embellishments, I used some of the Legendary die-cut ephemera pieces. So you can see in the top left corner of my photo there, I'm actually starting my first cluster. I used that little ticket that says #1 limited edition. I also had a star, and I attached that to the ticket using my tiny attacher first before I stuck it over the corner of the photo. And I also popped a little bit of foam tape in behind the star just to make sure it would sit up at the same level as my photo, because my photo actually had cardboard behind it just to pop it up from the background a bit. Now, as I had that first cluster up in the top left corner, I knew that I then had to create my other clusters just to make sure that I had my visual triangle. So you can see that I've used a large star from the die cut ephemera pack to create that second cluster sort of up to the right above the top corner of my photo. And I've also started to build my third cluster down in the bottom right corner of my photo. And I've used a Charms Creations handmade star embellishment as the basis for that cluster. And then on the top of it, I've actually popped that flare button, which is from the Boys Rule collection, and it says Boys Rule, funnily enough. Now, I'm actually tucking in a few extra bits and pieces. You can see that I've actually stuck in that pair of horns. That came from the little geo deer that was in the Legendary ephemera pack. And I actually cut that deer in half, and I've tucked the horns in under the top of the photo, and then I tucked the bottom of the face coming out from underneath. Across the bottom of my photo there, I've used a die cut little banner that says Incredible on it. And I'm also just fiddling around adding extra stars that were mix of stickers and die cuts, and some little phrase stickers from the accessory sticker sheet up the top there over the top of the stars. I also added a piece of gold wire from my thread, which you can see I'm just stapling to my page. Staples are a really good element to add to a boy page because the metallic element is a great sort of masculine touch on a page. So I like to use things like wire, and I like to attach things with staples and have them visible because it just gives it that real masculine edge. You can see I've got my fine line bottle there. It's got Scotch tacky glue in it. I'm using that to go and stick down extra stars. I'm just curling up the edges of those stars, curling up the points so that they come up away from the page to add dimension. And I'm actually now fussy cutting out the word hey, which came from one of the ephemera pieces, and I wanted that for the start of my title so that my title in its entirety read, "Hey, you're totally awesome, dudes." Now, the word dudes didn't come as dudes. It actually came as dude, and I just cut an S off another word and stuck that on there because I couldn't have dude with both of them in the photo. Now, I also added a few enamel dots from Legendary around my page, and then I finished off with some splatters of some Liquitex black acrylic ink. And that was it. I know I've talked a lot and I've sped it up. I hope you've stayed with me. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope I've inspired you to dig into some of your stash too and maybe put a boy layout together. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.